Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and welcome back to Projections, our show about virtual reality and augmented reality. And this week I have two experiences to talk about that fall into each of those categories, both actually still in development, but that you can try today. The first is a VR game called Lo-Fi from Iris VR. This is the company created by Blair Renaud, who created Technolust, one of the first Rift games that we were big fans of. It was very atmospheric, this love letter to the kind of cyberpunk worlds and the 80s video game worlds that we're fans of. And he's taking that concept along with the backing of a successful Kickstarter campaign and expanding that into a full-fledged open world game that's now in early access. You can actually support Blair, buy the game, and try it in its alpha state, which is what I've been doing for the past couple weeks. And it's something that I've been really enjoying. Now, there's not much of an actual game there now in terms of gameplay, story, or narrative, or mechanics. Right now, what you get is the ability to explore this cyberpunk world that he's designed and created in VR in two ways. One is your traditional walking around using smooth locomotion to kind of explore these environments that he's created, whether it's a futuristic police station, or an old vintage arcade, or Chinatown. These kind of, atmospheric environments we've seen in movies like Blade Runner or RoboCop. And what I'm enjoying most about Lo-Fi so far is actually the way you get between these environments, which is jumping into your police cruiser, essentially their version of a Blade Runner spinner, and flying through this cityscape at night. It's this wonderful atmospheric experience where you're in this illuminated cockpit and you're using your Oculus controllers or your VR controllers to grab the actual controls and interact with touch panels, as well as use the joystick throttle and fly around the world. And when combined with a great sound, which this game definitely has, as well as what I've been testing lately, which is a bass shaker, it really feels like I'm in a Blade Runner spinner. And it's a type of experience where I can, late at night, throw on a VR headset, jump into this police cruiser, and just fly around this open world cityscape they've designed and look at things like massive screens and billboards or holograms or traffic, and really feel like I'm in, a Blade Runner film. Other half of the game is going to be these noir-style mysteries that you have to solve as you wander through the world. And I actually got Blair on a Zoom call to chat with him about the creation of this world, about what gameplay mechanics VR gamers can expect, and also what updates early adopters can expect in the near future. Let's take a listen. I'm really thrilled to be joined this week by Blair Renaud, developer of not only Technolust, one of the launch games for Rift, which we were big fans of, but also working on Lo-Fi. And people can actually try an early version of it right now because you did a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. Congratulations on hitting your goals there, but you're letting people play the alpha at this point. And what can they play now? What is Lo-Fi?
Well, what they can play right now is basically as far as we've got it built. We're such a small team that it's actually really advantageous for us to have people live testing the whole time, giving feedback through Discord and whatnot. Currently, we're waiting on a big update. It should be before the end of the month. Things have kind of been slowed down by the current state of the world. You have kids, right?
Yeah, I got one kid, and it's hard working from home.
Yeah, so I've got I'm a grade 1 teacher by day and doing my best to get the next update at night, and then not sleeping basically. But yeah, in its current state, it's a lot of just like the world It's really kind of sparse right now, but I think it's giving people a kind of feel of what's going to be there. In the works, we have right now we're working on a lot of stuff on the back end, a lot of like purchasable things. The player can buy upgrades for their car, upgrades for their tools and weapons, decorations for their apartment. We're doing a lot of work on the AI stuff for the robots and humans in the world. In that trailer we just released, you can see a little bit of the robot abuse mechanics that we've added, kind of inspired by the Boston Dynamics robots.
Oh, right.
You throw things at the robots and kind of knock them off kilter, and they'll pick up boxes and carry them to different destinations and stuff.
I mean, even as the game is right now in its alpha state, I find it's this perfect bit of VR escapism where I can put on a headset like late at night and just chill out in the car, roaming this open cyberpunk world that you guys have built. And it's so relaxing to be in that car, essentially like the equivalent of a Blade Runner spinner. You guys have done so much work in modeling the interior, the cockpit of that. Is it fair to say that you think of the game design in both in like one half of it is that driving around the car, the kind of open world, chilling out, going to the end locations, and then the other half is in these discrete locations, whether it's an arcade or Chinatown or the police headquarters, your apartment, that then you get to fill out and have missions and discovery and mystery.
Yeah, so we're like really inspired by kind of the holodeck and the idea. I know it sounds cliche now with VR, but like actually the holodeck, like when you think about what they do in Next Generation in the holodeck, Picard will go and just kind of chill in his office in a 1920s noir kind of detective novel, or Riker will go and hang out at a jazz club. But there's things they can do, like I want players to come back every day and have something to do, like what they want to do. Like I don't want them to be frustrated. You never see anyone come out of the holodeck and look for a walkthrough for a puzzle or anything like that. I want them to be able to say, okay, today, I just want to go to the arcade and play some mini games. Or maybe they want to solve a crime. Maybe they want to like just, be a jerk and bust people for petty crime all day, or, anything.
How do you envision those mysteries and those crimes unfolding? Right now, you have the kind of placeholder NPCs, whether it's a robot, police, drones, some of the characters you've populated the world with. I noticed in the interaction, you can have your flashlight, there's the pistol, and then there's like kind of inventory. Is it going to be dialogue? Is it going to be more just kind of passive listening? How do you interact as a player with mystery?
Well, I've just got a really great writer on board who worked on Batman, Detective Comics, Titans. He's an amazing Brian Hill. He's a shout out. So what we want is kind of your typical kind of NPC interaction, right? Like dialogue choices made through your AR HUD that you can bring up by touching your head. But they'll be fully voiced and interactive. It depends on what the mystery is, right? It could be crime scene investigation. We've already got a black light mechanic in there that with luminol upgrades, so you can find blood spatter and stuff like that. But the NPCs will kind of drive they'll have their own lives and their own stories, and most of them are probably doing something illegal, and whether you choose to pursue that or not is up to you. And we want to have kind of like really open-ended possibilities with that, where a lot of games will say that like choice matters, and it never really does. Like I want to say that like choice doesn't really matter. Your choice will affect that character and their storyline, but it doesn't really like affect the world overall,
Mm.
because we want you to be able to live in this world, right? Like come back every day and do something. So if you decide to bust somebody for a crime, then that's your choice. They're out. They're out of the story, right?
That's interesting. It's a very Westworld in the way you think about it, where you can come back to this amusement park, this world, this virtual world that you're creating, and the NPCs go on their loops essentially, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
interject whenever you as a player want, and then you as a developer get to populate as much as you have time and resources to do as many of these stories and NPCs that you can fit in your
Mm-hmm.
development.
Exactly.
That's
And we can continue to add them as well. It's not like, voice actors are fairly cheap. And, once we have a good list of animations, it is a lot like Westworld when you think about it like that. Yeah.
You mentioned the AR HUD. I really like the way you tap the headset and it then creates this filter into the world. And I assume you're using the existing underlying geometry as a way to highlight the world, minor,
Mm-hmm.
with different shaders. And the same with the black light. The idea of these filters is a very cyberpunk idea, but the visual styling of the game is also unique in that you are adding noise, adding grain into it. Like it's not going for a certain photoreal or even cartoonish look. Can you describe how you landed on this aesthetic and how in your testing and the users testing it works with VR?
Sure. I think it's a cinematic style for sure. I'm inspired by the kind of the obvious movies, like Blade Runner and RoboCop and like things that do have that kind of like gritty, like dirty aesthetic. And that includes film grain for me. And I think it works great in VR. Some people don't think so. They want nice, like clean lines on everything. So there's the option to turn off film grain. But yeah, it's inspired by film. Like this is what I want from a holodeck. If I had a holodeck, I
Mm.
would say, I want to go to the world of Blade Runner or the world of Star Wars or the world, like the the world is the important part for me. My character can be me. I can do what I want in that world. But I think like, so the kind of aesthetic and the world building is the most important thing.
That's so
Kind
true.
of,
It's like I think of Star Trek Voyager when they went to the holodeck and they do their Flash Gordon serials and then they go in monotone. It's grayscale and it's very
yeah,
much this is that. When you're going into the world, it's not just the geometry and the art, it's the actual filter of how you had previously experienced that cyberpunk pulp novel or
totally. Yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
And that
black
is
and white works really well too. I've seen that done. Like, was it Wilson's Heart did black and white?
that's right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did some really early experiments where I was trying to kind of like capture the mood of certain things, like Metropolis, the
Mm,
Fritz Lang film. So it was
yeah.
like really, really, really heavy film grain and like kind of sepia, like black and white, and it like if you put that on somebody's head, it's yeah, it's kind of it's a new experience. It's like being in the film rather than kind of yeah, just looking at a photo or something,
That's
right?
so interesting what German
Yeah.
expressionism would look like in VR to try to
Mhm.
evoke those feelings, whether it's
Yeah.
music or harsh
Cool.
shadows or a
Yeah, well,
certain
I use
shuttered
that music
animation
as well.
style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
yeah, I've done a lot of experiments with stuff like that. Just trying to get the mood and the style of something, like nail it as perfectly as I can, because we don't get to experience that in real life, right? Like, well,
mhm.
like film is what comes closest, but yeah, kind of being immersed in the medium. It's yeah, it's good. Maybe it sounds corny.
No, it's super fascinating, and it's what us as fans of this genre want, and what VR as a medium is so good for.
Mhm,
Undoubtedly, a lot of people are going to be playing this, seated because that's at least in the Hovercar experience. You're
mhm,
how I play it. I love that you've designed it so you can physically grab the throttle and the joystick, even though you're holding your touch controllers, and so you don't require the HOTAS, physical joystick, but then you
No,
still have a sense that you are
that's an
directly
option though.
manipulating. Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
What other in-car features are you planning? Because I want to spend more time in the car. I love just interacting with the UI there.
hmm There's a bit in there right now. You've got up to your right, you've got a panel with your siren and your lights and docking and a speed boost, which shouldn't be there. That's something you can purchase later.
Mm.
So a lot of kind of the main controls are up there. On the bottom left screen, there it's blank currently, but that's going to be kind of your police computer interactions. So scan a vehicle, it'll show the license, registration, any kind of information like mission information. Uh, then on the panel above, I plan to it'll be mostly like right now there's a barely noticeable play button for
Yeah, for
music, and
music.
it
Yeah.
just plays one song, but eventually that's going to be a radio, and we have a system set up for persistent radio, kind of like Grand Theft Auto. So you'll be
Nice.
able to change radio stations. DJs will be speaking.
That is
Uh,
so part of the fantasy of Cyberpunk. The cockpit of your car being the cozy place where you can feel safe, you can do your
so,
thinking, while the world and the outside is cold and moody and dangerous.
mhm.
And you can just kind of sit above the city and look down below and watch the life of all the neon lights and the holograms
Definitely.
play
And we
out.
want the player's apartment to be like that as well, right? That's the kind of like the rain hitting the window
Yeah,
outside, and you can
weather,
just sit in there and
absolutely.
chill. Yeah.
In terms of the scope of this game, obviously you have opportunities to build out more levels, do more of the scripting for the missions. There's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah.
Is the city basically done at this point, or what's
The
there left to
the
do? And
yeah, the core city block is done, but that's really just kind of like an overmap, right? So like we can add as much as we want, kind of by different landing zones, and those can be as big as we want. The Kickstarter, we unlock the wastelands area, so that'll be kind of like a separate overmap that will be kind of out in the desert kind of thing. Um, so yeah, there's
very.
there's lots to do, but there's like I know like I enjoy doing it, so it's not a it's not a big burden.
And one of the rewards for the Kickstarter campaign was next gen PSVR support. And recently, Sony had their event. They announced the PS5. I noticed you put that logo in the latest trailer. Is the plan then,
Mhm.
whatever Sony does for PlayStation 5 and VR, you can port lo-fi to that. Is that the idea?
Yep, yep. And like we're a licensed PS developer, PlayStation developer. So yeah, just waiting for Sony to say the word that we can say the word. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're okay with putting just PlayStation logo on there. It might have been safer to put maybe just PlayStation 4 or PSVR, but I don't plan to port it to PS4 if Sony will let me not.
Mm,
And if that means no VR support, then we'll do that too. Like we already plan to make a flat version of it. Um,
mm, mm.
it like
Interesting.
it won't be the same thing, but like if the people want it, want to give the people what they want.
Yeah, yeah, and give a bigger audience space that way as well. You're working in Unity, I notice. Do you get advantages of like when looking at the PS5 and like the Unreal demos in terms of those fast loading times and streaming information and all that geometry? Is that something you're looking to and taking advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take the biggest advantage of the hardware that we can. We do that with the PC as well. You, I try to like ride that edge of what's possible with the minimum specs. Currently, there's some areas in lo-fi that don't quite run on VR min spec, but it'll get there. And if we're lucky, maybe minimum specs will be bumped up by the time we release.
Well, absolutely. In terms of early adopters too. I mean, we're the people with definitely higher than minimum spec at home, and that's where people can try it at home, because they can back you early access with links for when try that out. For those people who have backed you in early access, are you planning on the regular updates are be coming?
Yep. Like I said, we've been a bit behind. It's been like, oh God, I don't even know, maybe 2 months this time around. But now that things are kind of coming back together, I plan to do one before the end of the month, and then they should be more regular from then on, even like up to weekly.
Wow, awesome. Well, looking forward to that. Blair, it's a pleasure to meet you. Good luck on the rest of the game, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom.
So thanks so much to Blair for jumping on the line with me and being so open and transparent about the state of lo-fi, about what needs to be done, and also sharing his insights onto the direction and what he's going for. Because I do think that comes across when you're playing in game. And you can play right now. You can go to the Iris VR website, back the game, get the alpha, and give Blair some direct feedback to what you'd love to see in lo-fi going forward. Now, the other experience I want to talk about is also something that's kind of early access. It's still in development, and it's actually a Oculus Quest application you can find on SideQuest. That's also a mixed reality viewer into what's essentially a paintbrush-like art application. It's called QuestDraw AR, and in headset, it's very much like Tilt Brush or Quill, where you have a paintbrush, you have a palette, and in this space, you can do volumetric painting. You can create brush strokes, you can, basically, you have the tilt brush experience. But what's interesting about QuestDraw AR and the AR element of it is that there's also a companion app. It's an iOS app right now that you can run on iPhone 10 or newer, or the newest iPads, and which then allows someone in the real world to hold up that tablet or phone and see what you're drawing and actually see the VR headset you're wearing or some type of skinned mask, as well as the avatar's hands, the 3 points of tracking essentially that you get. And what I think QuestDraw AR demonstrates is really the challenge of mixed reality as it's being implemented right now, and the calibration that's needed. Unlike a Steam VR Lighthouse-based system, like with the Vive trackers, these systems, the iPad, the phone, and your headset are being tracked with fundamentally different tracking technologies. They're using the iOS AR tracking, as well as combining that information with the Quest tracking over a shared Wi-Fi connection. And the calibration process itself requires a little bit of tinkering. You have to, with the phone or tablet, create this kind of position on the floor, this beacon that then in the headset you want to stand on, and then reorient yourself as you're facing the viewer. And then on the tablet or phone, you then manually, with these directional buttons, align that helmet and align the controllers to match the 3 points of tracking in the real world. And when it works, it's really compelling. You can record on your phone or tablet, and you can see what that person is drawing in the real world. We did a demonstration and a test out in my backyard, and it's really cool to have my wife hold the tablet and walk around me as I was doing this light sketching. But as you can also see, the alignment doesn't stay perfect, and there is a little bit of drift that happens, in this case for me, after just a couple minutes of drawing. And it shows that these mixed reality implementations that are kind of bootstrapped right now using different tracking methods and sharing that positional data, it's an imperfect solution that will need kind of recalibration or iteration to get it to work over long periods of time. Even in the other mixed reality implementations we've seen, like with Live, it requires a pretty complex calibration process. But it's a really interesting demo, and the developer did say they would be supporting Android if they get enough Patreon support. So we'll have all that information linked below, the SideQuest link, the iOS store page for this application, as well as where you can find out more information about QuestDraw. It's really fun to try out. It's free. And if you have all those devices, it is one of those things that shows you the potential of mixed reality with AR and also flat screens in the real world, which I think is going to be essential for demonstrating and showing VR content with a greater audience in the long run. But it is a free demo right now. You should totally check it out. That's QuestDraw AR, and also check out Lo-Fi from Iris VR. That's it for projections this week. I'll be back next time with more games and hardware to talk about in the worlds of VR and AR. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.